Again, thank you for joining us for this conversation, this Kindergarten Matters conversation, which is the First 10 framework exploring best practices and community innovations in partnership with First 10. In today's conversation, which is going to be the first in a three-part series that we'll be having with First 10 across this year and the new year, we'll be hearing from hardworking and inspiring community members from two different places in the US. You'll be hearing first from Conestoga Valley, Pennsylvania, and then also from Woonsocket, Rhode Island, to learn more about the work that they're doing in this transition to kindergarten and in this community collaboration space. We're really excited today to highlight these two communities. While there are states across the country that are increasingly embracing First 10, which is a framework designed to foster strong school community partnerships aimed at supporting children and their families comprehensively during the foundational decade. This first conversation, like I said, will feature many school leaders, community members, and excitingly, two parents who will be joining us in conversation to share what their experience has been like in this program. This collaborative approach emphasizes the importance of creating a seamless network of support that spans early childhood through the early elementary years, enhancing alignment between schools, families, and community resources. With that, I'm excited to introduce our panel that we have today. And please note, I'll be posting full bios in the chat box now. And so I'm just giving a brief preview of who we have with us today. Beth Campanelli is WED Speech and Language Department Chairperson with the Woonsocket Education Department in Rhode Island. Beth spent her career as a servicing speech and language pathologist in the city's early childhood building, which housed their pre-K to grade 2 population. In addition to her work in the Woonsocket Public Schools, Beth has worked as a home-based early intervention therapist. Mehmet and Ijem, I will get this, Chiklaibleki are joining us today. They are two first 10 parents who are joining us in conversation. Oh, apologies. There we go. They have 4 children, ages 4, 7, 9, and 13. Originally from Turkey, Mehmet and Ijem have been married for 14 years. Mehmet graduated from Anatolian University in Turkey with a specialization in business administration and currently runs his own painting company in Lancaster, Pennsylvania. And Ijem works as a stay-at-home mom caring for their 4 wonderful children. And David Jacobson is joining us today. David designed and leads EDC's First 10 initiative, which supports a national network of school early childhood community partnerships. These partnerships work to improve outcomes for children ages birth through 10 and their families. And Jacobson brings deep experience in early childhood education, school improvement, applied research, strategic planning, and addressing inequality to his work leading First 10. We also have with us, there we go. We also have with us Dr. Jill Koser, who currently serves as the assistant to the superintendent elementary in the Conestoga Valley School District located in Lancaster, PA. In addition, Dr. Koser works closely with the Pennsylvania Inspired Leadership Program as a facilitator in various regions across the state. Jill joined CV in 2021 from the school district of the city of York, where she served as the director of curriculum and instruction and then the assistant superintendent for special education. Prior to serving in SDCY, Jill oversaw the early learning team at Community Action Partnership of Lancaster County. And we also have with us Erin Smith. Erin is enrollment specialist at the Woonsocket Head Start Child Development Association in Rhode Island, where she has worked for the past 22 years. Erin has helped in connecting the Woonsocket First 10 Partnership and Head Start to establish strong supports for students within the school district. And Michelle Trasborg is Director of Academic Supports with the Conestoga Valley School District in Pennsylvania. She holds a master's in education and brings 30 years of diverse experience to the field of education. She has taught at all levels, spending 15 years as a middle and high school English teacher and 3 years as a writing specialist. Now serving as the Director of Academic Supports, she oversees pre-K, federal programs, ESL, and MTSS, driving initiatives to support academic success for all students. And guiding us through today's conversation is Melissa Castillo. Melissa has over 28 years of experience in education. She currently serves as the Senior Advisor for the Office of the Secretary at the U.S. Department of Education. And before that, Melissa served as the Associate Superintendent of Equity, Diversity, and Inclusion for the Arizona Department of Education, responsible for advancing educational opportunities and outcomes for diverse student populations. And with that, I am excited to kick it off to Melissa, where she will get the conversation started. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone. Can you hear me okay? Okay. All right. It's wonderful to be with you all this afternoon. Welcome, and thank you for taking time out of what we know always a very busy day in the life of anyone that has anything to do with education. I'm really excited and honored to be moderating a panel with such an impressive lineup of experts that most importantly includes families who we know are our first students, teachers. So I'd like to begin with an overview and framing of some of the key work the department is focused on specific to early learning and language, which we know directly aligns with the wonderful work the panelists will be sharing with you all today. Our wonderful Secretary of Education, Dr. Miguel Cardona, announced the department's Raise the Bar, Lead the World initiative early last year, which includes 3 important focus areas: achieving academic excellence, boldly improving learning conditions, and creating pathways for global engagement. Dr. Cardona encourages us to foster a new multilingual generation of Americans strengthened by their identities, supported in their education, and prepared to lead our country and around the world. Under creating pathways for global engagement, one of the goals is to provide every student with a pathway to multilingualism. And we know that in order to do that effectively, we want to start as early as possible. So there are 3 levers that we specifically identified to support this particular focus area under our Raise the Bar, Lead the World initiative. The first is equitable access for English learners. So we have students that already come to our schools with beautiful languages, cultures, and experiences other than English. And we want to make sure that we're leaning into those and leveraging those. And that, of course, first and foremost, we're ensuring they have equitable access to all the programs, including those that will be talked about today, so that they're successful and hopefully keeping their home or heritage language while they're simultaneously learning English, which will be talked a little bit more about. And then in order to do this, we also know we have to diversify our multilingual and bilingual educator workforce. So I think anybody on this line would agree that we need to address the educator shortage, and that when we get even more specific and more niched into certain programs, we've got to even think more about how we are recruiting, retaining the wonderful teachers that we already have. And then finally, we really look forward to these pathways, creating opportunities for a quality bilingual education for all students. And again, we know when we start these things early, we have much more success, and that this success is not something that we only want for one particular group of learners, but for all of our students in school. Part of why this is important for us at the department is that we know multilingualism has significant academic, cognitive, and economic and social cultural benefits. We know that students who receive high quality instruction starting again early on in school in their home language plus English outperform their peers who attend only English models. We also know that native English speakers who are given the opportunity to learn English as well as another language outperform their peers. And finally, we also know that adults who are multilingual learners have access to higher skilled, higher paying, more in-demand jobs. Under our Achieving Academic Excellence focus area under Raise the Bar, we are also focused as one of our goals to accelerate learning for every student. We know from our expert, Swati Adhikar, who is an Assistant Deputy Secretary in our Office of Elementary and Secondary Education, that kindergarten really is where this is significant and where we want to pay attention. So she started our initiative, which is called Kindergarten as a Sturdy Bridge. We know that the kindergarten year presents an opportunity to meet the strengths and needs of our young learners so that they can continue to flourish in the years to come. And again, something that is going to be spoken of quite a bit in the rest of our webinar today. Kindergarten, we know, is the first real scale early learning opportunity in school settings for providing the supports and interventions needed to assure on-track development. We know pre-K is also important, but we also know that it's not necessarily something that's available to all students across the country, whereas kindergarten is. Kindergarten is an inflection point, and data shows a widening gap in kindergarten, and when combined with that gap at kindergarten entry, is one that we need to acknowledge and address as soon as possible. We know that children in kindergarten arrive to us with very diverse settings and experiences, which include different languages and cultures, and that these settings are voluntary and they're parent choice, and they're of varying quality and not always resourced at scale, hence why we have to pay so much attention. We know with a wide range of developmental and linguistic strengths, learning differences, developmental delays and disabilities, again, that these children that arrive to us in kindergarten immediately need to be identified and their strengths and needs addressed. Children also arrive with undetected and undiagnosed physical and behavioral health challenges, and we've seen a significant increase in those as a result of the pandemic. So there's a lot to think about in this really key year, which is a year for some transitional from pre-K to K, and then for others, that transition from kindergarten, where if that foundation isn't strong, will have a huge impact on what happens in first grade and beyond. Important also to share, and why we are excited to be here today, is the work that the campaign is doing to elevate the why and how kindergarten matters. In partnership with New America's Early and Elementary Education Policy Program, they presented a series of 8 webinars, and we'll be doing a second series as well that will glean insights from research and practice, explored what educators, state and local decision makers and practitioners and funders are already doing, and highlighted opportunities to do more to promote literacy, math, and social emotional development in kindergarten. So with that brief framing and overview, to make some of the connection to what you will be hearing today and what I'm most excited about, is that we are going to start with David. I'm going to turn to you first, David Jacobson, who is joining us from First 10. I'm going to turn to you to kick us off. Could you tell our audience about the other webinars in the series and then explain the problem that First 10 addresses and the research that led to the approach?
Thank you, Melissa. It's really a pleasure to be here today. I want to thank you and the campaign for this opportunity. I'm very excited that we're going to have this conversation, excuse me, with our colleagues from Conestoga Valley and Woonsocket. These two communities have really done such great work. They are leaders in the First 10 movement, and they serve as great exemplars for how communities can improve supports for children and families. As context, First 10 is an initiative of the Education Development Center, EDC. EDC is a mission-driven nonprofit focused on education, health, and expanding economic opportunity, and we draw on the experience of many colleagues as we implement First 10 in communities around the country. So, as Sierra mentioned, this is the first of 3 Campaign for Grade Level Reading webinars this year that will focus on First 10. And our goal in this series is to demonstrate the power of school community partnerships focused on young children and their families, and to share the innovative strategies First 10 communities across the country are developing in urban, rural, and suburban settings. Strategies that other communities can adapt to meet the needs of their children and families. So today's session will focus on the capacity that Conestoga Valley and Woonsocket have built through their partnerships and the creative strategies they have designed around the transition to kindergarten and supports for families. And then on February 11th, we'll turn to Maine's distinctive approach to First 10, Maine's First 10 model was conceived with rural communities in mind, and it's one that focuses on First 10 community school hubs. So whereas today's panelists represent district-wide partnerships, the February webinar will highlight Maine's First 10 community schools and the ways in which the state of Maine is building capacity around these community schools with sustainability in mind. And then on May 6th, we'll feature the ambitious First 10 partnership in York, Pennsylvania. York First 10 supports both district-wide initiatives and First 10 community schools, and our focus that day will be on an exciting citywide early math initiative called Young Mathematicians. Young Mathematicians provides over 50 fun, developmentally appropriate math games, all of which I should add are free. And these are great for classrooms, and they're also a great family engagement strategy. So with support from the Heising Simons Foundation, York First 10 is integrating the Young Mathematicians games along with extensive professional development into our work with families, with pre-K teachers across the city, Head Start, community-based, district, kindergarten teachers, the library, and more. So that's the series, and we hope that all of you can join us. And this brings us to the question, why are local school community partnerships focused on young children and families so important? And so next slide, please. So here, I'd like to start by acknowledging the fundamental challenges of poverty. We know that if we're going to address the challenges of poverty, it's better to start early. Yet how we address the early years is important. We know from decades of research that children need consistent quality across the years. They need alignment across the age span such that each year builds on the learning and care of the previous year and prepares children for the learning and care of the next. And we need coordination across education, health, and social services. However, our early childhood mixed delivery systems are typically fragmented. There are gaps and disconnects between early childhood and K-12 and between education, health, and social services. And I'm sure that many in our audiences have bumped up against these gaps and disconnects. And so as a result, children experience inconsistent quality and a lack of coordination and alignment. As they move through the early childhood programs. So in order to address this fragmentation, we need to think vertically across the years, and we need to bridge the gap between early childhood and K-12. Further, we need to use schools and preschools as hubs, next slide please, to connect to health. So we need to use schools and preschools as hubs to connect families to health and social services. So starting in 2017, I did a study on communities that were having success bridging early childhood and K-12 education and connecting families to health and social services. I interviewed national leaders, I talked to 18 communities around the country, and I focused on the ones on this map. And I did extensive site visits at most of them. And then in 2019, I published a study about what we can learn from these communities. And this is where I first laid out the First 10 framework, which you'll see in action today and throughout the series. And here I'll just quickly add that since 2019, we've implemented First 10 in 7 states, in over 50 communities, urban, rural, and suburban, all with a focus on children and families and households with low incomes. We are expanding to Honduras in the coming year, I'm happy to say, and our communities come together monthly in a network to exchange ideas and strategies and learn from each other. Back to you, Melissa.
Thank you, David. It's amazing how the mute button still seems to be difficult to locate. Thank you for that introduction. And now I have to say, I'm really excited about the all children can learn. I mean, if there's anything that we really preface here at the department is regardless of linguistic background, racial background, social, economic, and so on and so forth. So thank you. So this is great. So I would like you now to please share with us the First 10 framework and the strategies that First 10 schools and communities implement.
Sure, Melissa. So there are 3 big ideas that underlie First 10. The first is that research supports a community-wide approach to the first 10 years. And here we're talking about bridging early childhood in K-12 and bridging education, health, and social services. Really, in effect, harnessing the collective power of the schools and programs in a community that serve children and families. The second big idea is that innovative communities across the country are creating a First 10 roadmap that addresses teaching and learning, partnerships with families, and comprehensive services. So we both work in classrooms as well as work with families and connecting them to services. And the third big idea is that First 10 provides a framework, a planning process, and a set of strategies to guide local partnerships. We begin with a commitment to educational and racial equity and the whole child, and we summarize this in the expression, all children learn and thrive. By all children, we aim to eliminate disparities by income, by race, and by other cultural factors. And by learn and thrive, we have a whole child notion in mind that includes health and mental health outcomes, social emotional learning outcomes, and academic and cognitive outcomes. We then create a partnership. We convene a partnership that includes elementary schools and school districts, Head Start, community-based preschools, libraries, other early childhood programs, and families, with the idea that we are all interdependent, and through our collaboration, we get better at what we do. And these partnerships then implement three broad strategies across the early childhood elementary school continuum as part of a coherent plan, drawing on the evidence-based practices of First 10 exemplar communities. And for each of these broad strategies, most of our communities begin with a starter practice. And so the first broad strategy is to collaborate to improve teaching and learning. And our starter practice here is to implement a comprehensive transition to kindergarten plan. These plans include activities to support children and families throughout the transition, as well as meaningful collaboration between early childhood programs and elementary schools, including joint professional learning that includes pre-K and K teachers. And really, that's very, very powerful, we find, when we bring those teachers together. We also make great connections to community organizations, including libraries. And so, to Melissa's point earlier, all of the transition to kindergarten activities for families, all of these are opportunities to promote oral language development and early literacy. And these English language arts skills and early literacy school skills are often a priority in our joint professional learning workshops as well. And one thing I really like about today's pairing of Conestoga Valley and Woonsocket is that they've both done creative work supporting children and families around the transition to kindergarten. And towards the end of today, you'll hear them both share their teachers' experience with joint professional learning. A second broad strategy is to coordinate comprehensive services. And here we're talking about deepening partnerships with health and social service agencies, improving referral systems. And our starter practice here is what we call school-connected play and learns. We bring together caregivers and children, we sing, we dance, we read stories interactively, we do songs and rhymes, we build trusting relationships with our families, we always integrate some caregiver learning, and we really emphasize connections among peers, the social capital. We emphasize connections with health and social service agencies and connections with schools. And today you'll hear how Woonsocket has done some great cross-agency work, making their play and learn successful. And Conestoga Valley has been really creative in coming up with different themes for its play and learns, creating real variety for its families. And both communities have great family participation, so you can tell that they're really meeting a need. Our third broad strategy is to deepen partnerships with families in culturally responsive ways. This is about elevating family voice, creating family engagement and partnership structures, outreach to culturally specific groups. And our starter practice here is to launch a community-wide parenting campaign. And so if our communities already have a campaign in place, we will use the First 10 partnership to amplify that campaign. But many of our communities, most of our communities implement the basics. These are founded by Ron Ferguson at the Kennedy School at Harvard. These are 5 evidence-based principles that we saturate the community with. Maximize love, manage stress, talk, sing, and point, count, group, and compare, explore through movement and play, and read and discuss stories. For each of these, there's a 4-minute video full of diverse families. There are tip sheets, posters, flyers, and a texting service. And the reason that this is such a good fit for First 10, next slide please, is that we use our First 10 partnership to reach out to all the programs in the community that touch the lives of children and families. And we work to get all of these communities, all of these stakeholders promoting the 5 evidence-based messages, in effect singing from the same hymnal. And we find that to be very powerful. So now we have our 3 broad strategies, and we have our starter practices for each, and we have a new partnership in town. And it's important that we lead strategically and continuously improve. So the First 10 team at EDC, in collaboration with local leaders, facilitates the community First 10 teams for the first 2 or 3 years. We look at assets and needs, we develop focused plans, we do that pretty quickly, and then we help implement these plans. And so what's exciting about Conestoga Valley and Woonsocket, in addition to the creative strategies that they've implemented, is how they've built such strong partnerships and the capacity to continue collaborating and innovating. So we're no longer providing technical assistance to Woonsocket at all, and only a very little bit at this point to Conestoga Valley. So these are 2 communities that are off and running on their own. So this is what we mean when we reference the First 10 framework and this visual here. And central to our goals and near and dear to our hearts in First 10, next slide please, is the idea of strengthening communities through their support of children and families. First 10 is premised on the idea that school community partnerships focused on young children can implement concrete strategies that build relationships and address loneliness, help build social capital, help build the capacity of organizations to collaborate with each other, and through this relationship building, strengthen commitment to the community and promote the willingness to take action for the common good. First 10 has been evaluated in Michigan and in Rhode Island, including a third-party evaluation by the American Institutes of Research. And we're really proud of these positive outcomes, addressing barriers that limit families' access to school readiness services, increasing collaboration between pre-K and kindergarten teachers, aligning pre-K and kindergarten practices, raising the awareness of the importance of early learning through parenting campaigns, and improving collaboration across schools, early childhood programs, and community partners. You can find these evaluations plus a video, a case study, and other resources in this resource kit, and you can find the link to this in the chat. This is my contact information if you have any questions. And now I'm looking forward to hearing how our friends and colleagues from Conestoga Valley and Woonsocket will bring First 10 to life for all of you and show how they put it into action.
Thank you so much, David, for that detailed overview and context. It's really important, right? The what it is and why it's important is really significant. And now we're going to get to go into the how. And it sounds like community and program partnerships are really key to all this, to sustaining it and ensuring that it can continue to do the great work that needs to happen. So with that, I am going to now turn to some of our community representatives to discuss how the First 10 framework came to be. So Beth and Aaron, you're up, and they are joining us from Woonsocket, and they'll speak a little bit more about who they are and what they do. But I understand that Woonsocket has developed such a strong and productive relationship between the school district and citywide Head Start programs, and that together you anchor Woonsocket's First 10 partnership. So could you please tell us a little bit about Woonsocket and share your perspectives on how this partnership was developed?
Sure thing. Thank you so much, Melissa. Thank you, David. I know Erin is on here too, and we're going to just talk about, we refer to the collaboration as the team. We have certainly worked together as a team with this First 10 initiative. So I'm Beth Campanelli. I'm the Speech and Language Department Chairperson in Woonsocket. I've worked here for over 25 years. Rooted in all things speech and language, as Melissa said, building that foundation. And we see that throughout all of our early learning activities that we'll be talking about going forward.
Hi, everybody. My name is Erin Smith. I as well have worked in the city of Woonsocket for the last 22 years. I started out as a family worker in the Head Start program and have recently been working for the last 10 years doing enrollment specifically for all our funding streams. So I have a very unique job. I have access to lots of children. So I think it's a good fit for the work that we do involving the Play and Learn. So I'll talk a little bit later about that.
So I think we're going to go on to the next slide, and Erin's going to talk a little bit about the makeup of Woonsocket, the demographics and what have you, to paint a little picture of what Woonsocket looks like.
Yeah, so all this information was taken from the Rhode Island Kids Count fact book that comes out every year. So there's a couple slides, obviously, in regards to the demographics about children that are on cash assistance, the level of poverty that we see in our city, as well as, children and their access to school meals. So almost 50% of children that are in Woonsocket Public Schools are qualified for a reduced and free lunch. And there was over 4,000 children under the age of 18 that were accessing SNAP benefits in the city.
Great. So I think we'll go forward and talk a little bit about how the partnership came to be. We termed ourselves the WED heads to make it a little bit fun here. But what happened was our directors from the Woonsocket Education Department and the Head Start program joined forces and really had a like goal to provide transition supports to our kiddos. We have many students within the Head Starts that transition into our district. So this all made so much sense. So what we started out doing is thinking about creative ways to getting students ready for kindergarten expectations. Melissa, you spoke to that gap that exists and wow, do we see it? So that is something we work on, is how can we create that bridge, so to speak, between not only our children who are fortunate enough to be a part of the high quality preschool programs we have within our city, but those students who have not had the exposure. What can we do for them? So in the beginning years, we talked about and worked together to create a great little video to demonstrate the day in the life of a kindergarten student. That has followed. It's such a great video, and you will all have access to seeing how we made that, what we touched upon. We also started community events that included question answer type in services at our local library, getting people to come out and feel comfortable saying, what should my child know? What should my child be ready to do on day one in kindergarten? And we also provided backpack distribution at those events. We have always had a very strong relationship with the Head Start in particular, providing special education supports, of course, related services such as speech and language, occupational therapy, physical therapy, in addition to special educators living, under their roof, servicing our students. This has allowed us to reduce the number of self-contained pre-K classrooms that we originally had in our buildings, and implementing an itinerant model for intervention, which includes not only direct service, but it enhances that collaborative meeting, adding to the distribution of services, not just happening when you have those service providers around, and providing mutual professional development. So this happened throughout our district and community programs. Our WEDhead team also traveled to Arizona together to speak about strengthening school-to-school communication. And more uniquely, we have housed Head Start classrooms within our district buildings. This helped working together with our state-funded pre-K lottery program, and it's providing high-quality inclusive programs for our 4-year-olds.
Okay.
Yep.
I think we're going to move on to Jill. Great. So thank you for sharing that, Beth. And I really appreciate you speaking to the collaboration piece, which we say here that intentional collaboration is key to anything, right? Understanding what one school or one set of providers is doing, and that consistent, effective work continue with another set of providers. So I'm going to turn to you now, Jill. And I understand that Conestoga, I hope I'm saying that right. You can correct me when you come on. Conestoga Valley School District has incorporated the First 10 framework into the way it supports young children and their families. Could you tell us a little bit about that and how First 10 aligns with the school district's priorities?
Absolutely. Thank you so much for having the Conestoga Valley team today. We are just thrilled to be here to share the work that we've been doing with First 10 in our district. So we are coming to you from southeastern Pennsylvania. We are in the heart of Lancaster County, which is also the heart of Amish country here in our state. And so Conestoga Valley is a very unique community. We have a rich agricultural heritage. We are grounded in Amish and Mennonite Anabaptist traditions, but it is because of that unique aspect that our school district has actually become more and more diverse over the last 20 years. So being in the middle of Amish country meant a lot of tourist attractions, which opened up new business. We opened up our outlet mall, hotels, restaurants, theme parks. And as a result, our particular school district has really become half suburban and half agricultural and rural. It's almost a tale of two cities in CV. And so over the last 2 decades, we have really experienced an exciting shift in our demographics. And in Conestoga Valley, we believe that this shift, this diversity, has become one of our greatest strengths and one of our greatest assets in our community. Speaking of our multilingual learners, we have about 44 different languages and dialects spoken within our school district. And as part of that diversity, we've really identified the need to ensure that all of our learners have access and opportunity to high quality learning experiences. And for us in CV, early learning and First 10 has become one of our fundamental foundational strategies in this work. And so as a school district, we really have prioritized the work of First 10 in CV. As a team, we came together and we identified our core goals for the First 10 work and how they align to our district's profile of a CV learner. We believe in these 5 competencies across the pre-K, across the First 10 really, to graduation continuum, giving our students that sense of belonging, establishing positive relationships between schools and families and caregivers. We have really invested time and energy as a First 10 team into the efficient and effective transitions to kindergarten, which you'll hear more about from the CV team members. And then again, that concept of equity, making sure that all of our students have access and opportunity. And so our First 10 work really is aligned to our district comprehensive plan and is one of those critical goals. It's not an extra add-on. It's not something that we think about later. It's become enmeshed into the work of CV. And so as a result, one of the things that I think makes our system really unique is that our entire system is invested and is engaged and is bought into the work of the First 10 team here in CV. It's a way of being. Early learning is a yes culture in Conestoga Valley, where all of these different team members, all of these different departments work with our First 10 team to create the pathways so that we can continue to expand and grow our First 10 initiatives. It starts with our school board. I was very fortunate in 2021 to come into a district where early learning was a priority for our school board. We didn't need to change anyone's mind about, we had a board and we had leadership who was invested in this work. And so having a school board who believes in this and supports the work has opened up a lot of pathways then for school-based pre-K programs, for use of our district facilities for our play and learns and reaching out to our younger families. We have a superintendent who's supportive of the work and who really clears the path and makes sure that those barriers are removed to the work. Our elementary principals actually lead and help to facilitate our First 10 action teams with Mrs. Trasberg, our Director of Academic Supports, and then all of our departments, from our Public Relations Director, who makes sure that First 10 is featured in every aspect of our district communications, to our operations and transportation, the busing that we do for our families in our pre-K program. We've got some phenomenal community partners, our social services hub, Conestoga Valley Seeds, and then some of our other health and mental health partners who work with us across the board. It's just been a phenomenal opportunity to have a system-wide support of this work in Conestoga Valley. So as a result of those high level and systemic supports, we're able to do some really creative things that you'll hear about from our family and from our academic support administrator as well.
Thank you, Jill. And I can tell you that you can just hear the passion in your tone and in that, and see it on your face with that amazing smile. And it's always exciting when leaders actually say that the shifts that are occurring in terms of demographics aren't seen as challenges, but that are seen as assets and as strengths, and that you're excited about them and that they're welcome shifts. So thank you, because we want our students' uniqueness to be seen as an asset, right? And not as a deficit. That mind shift is hugely important to anything that we do. And that First 10 is not an add-on, but it is core. It is part of what is happening. It's not something additionally that we have to try to do. And then finally, I can't not say the shared responsibility piece that obviously came out, that is just so critical in the work that we have to do to move students forward in a positive trajectory. So thank you, Jill. So we're gonna keep going with this idea of a very specific kindergarten focus. So I'd love to turn next to a question that relates to the campaign for grade level readings, Kindergarten Matters series. As Sierra outlined in the beginning, the transition to the kindergarten year is pivotal as we work to ensure that all students are given proper supports when they join the classroom. Excitingly, both of our communities have developed innovative approaches to supporting the transition to kindergarten, which hence we are also really excited about here at the Department of Education with our Kindergarten as a Sturdy Bridge initiative. So Beth, could you start us off by telling us about Woonsocket's Path Support to Kindergarten and how you have integrated the basics into that experience?
Oh, I would love to, Melissa. This is where I get awfully smiley about the events that we've put together. So we have what we referred to as Passport to Kindergarten. We started as a pilot program. This began in 22-23. What our goal here was, it was to create as many events to showcase each one of our elementary schools. So we have 6 elementary schools in our city. We planned 6 events in the springtime to get everybody out and into these buildings. We wanted all district students invited to all events. So our main goal was getting kids through the doors as often, as much as we could. So increasing that exposure to a school building, kindergarten activities, not to provide what you would typically see as like a kindergarten open house. That was not our goal. We wanted kids coming in with families and having that positive impression about what it is to begin school. Using the basics really helped us to structure our activities. So as you can see, we used a passport theme where they went through station rotations of varying activities. In each station, they were able to leave with the materials that they used so that then we could encourage parents to utilize these at home. These are activities that you can do to prepare your children to experience, a smoother transition as they come in the fall. We had a great response to these activities. Once people came to the first, they wanted to come back for the second, third, fourth, fifth, and sixth. So we saw faces over and over again, which was wonderful. I have to point out that our Head Start team was crucial. They were encouraging those students to come to these activities. And when they walked through the door to see their Head Start teachers there, what a smile on their face. So I have linked a full Google slide presentation that really shows you in more detail what those activities look like. So for instance, our Talk, Sing, and Point was a focus on early literacy, building name bracelets, finding sight words. We did some sand writing. And again, all of those things went home with those families, which was great. When we can move along to the next slide just to show the evolution of that program. Once we went through the pilot, we then pushed out last year building-based passport to kindergarten. So now we were getting each elementary school to really have ownership of their activities. These activities, we worked as a team district-wide. We didn't want to work harder. We wanted to work smarter, provide equity across the district so that all kids were getting experience with the similar type of activities. A new year, a new format. We focused on boots on the ground, promoting these events within the neighborhood schools, getting to the convenience store, getting to the churches and saying, this is what's out there for your kiddos who are entering into K. Come, be excited, enjoy, get them ready. We sent personalized postcards to all of the kids that were out in our community settings, anybody going to a community pre-K, our Head Starts and other programs. So they were handed a personalized invite and they loved it. A picture of the school that they would be attending on the outside and for them to keep. As I envisioned this going up on their refrigerator and staying there, reminding them of what they had to come. Sibling and family outreach was done right through the school messaging system, so Class Dojo. We have an extremely supportive superintendent who has weekly newsletters, and we use that platform to get our events out there, and not only to let people know when the events were coming up, but as a follow-up. The pictures, the smile was worth a million to see these kids really enjoying themselves.
Thank you so much, Beth, and thank you for being so detailed and specific about the different types of strategies. Awareness is certainly something that is important, and that we heard a lot from parents when we did listening sessions across the country is their very limited awareness of some of the wonderful programs that were going on, and making sure that when we are creating awareness that it's accessible and comprehensible to any family member, right, regardless of their language or their diverse background. So Michelle, I'm going to turn to you next. And could you describe to us how Conestoga Valley worked on the transition in kindergarten and what you see as some of the benefits children and families have experienced?
Sure. I think maybe if you go to the next slide, CV's slide might come up there a little bit further. There. Okay, great. Thanks so much. So as was shared earlier, my name is Michelle Trasborg, and I've been in education for 30 years. And I think my background is worth just touching on briefly. I spent 15 years in secondary education prior to coming to Conestoga Valley, where I was the district supervisor for English language arts and also ESL for about 10 years, and then spent the last 5 years as an elementary principal. I say this because I have this K-12 background and experience, and when I was an elementary principal, and got to become involved in First 10, and we were talking about the transition to kindergarten, we approached it, and the mindset that I had was that the transition to kindergarten needs to be as important as that senior year of students, and all of the events and all of the activity and the community coming together. I was in my former life a class advisor. So I planned everything for the seniors, prom, baccalaureate, graduation. And so I wanted to bring that same energy to kindergarten, and have that cohesive experience that the community could all get together and rally around, and that it wasn't just the kindergarten teachers or just the elementary principals involved in this, that this was, as Jill shared earlier, something that everybody was involved in. It was the welcoming and the onboarding of families at a very critical time, their first experiences coming to Conestoga Valley, and we wanted to make that as special and as important and as organized and all those positive adjectives we can think about. We wanted those feelings to be there as well. And so when we began this process, we realized that we have 4 elementary schools, and we had a lot of really great things happening in different schools, but it wasn't cohesive, it wasn't as organized. And so we came together and we decided that we wanted to put together an implementation guide. And that implementation guide was going to be our playbook, our format where we were going to make some decisions as a district, what was important to us, and we were going to use the First 10 framework to pull it all together. So on the slide, you can see on the left a little screenshot of what the individual pages of our implementation guide look like. So for example, for community play and learns, for every event, every activity we do, we use the same template. So community play and learns, transition to kindergarten, the different events would be at the top there. On the left would be a description of what the event is. On the right-hand side would be the essential elements, the non-negotiables that every elementary school would need to have as part of that event. And then some optional ideas, because we recognize that our different elementary schools have some different demographics, some different sizes, and we wanted to come to agreement about what was absolutely necessary and then what also we could be flexible on. The dates on the bottom left, you see the budget, and what's not pictured here also underneath is we have a continuous improvement measures where every year after the event, after the occurrences, we reflect, we come back, and then we update and we continually shift our focus to be leaning forward into what we want to do. And so we came up with the idea then that we had all of these parents and all of these great ideas, and we needed to kind of thematically group it together. And so we came up with the idea of the Kindergarten Express. Hop aboard the Kindergarten Express. There's 6 stops on the Kindergarten Express. And as part of that, the first one is the kickoff to kindergarten. And that starts in after Christmas in January or February. It's a play and learn where families come in with their children. It's their first real beginning step in the Kindergarten Express process. It's focused on literacy, math, and social emotional learning. And all of that is with the train theme. Our second event then is, you can see in the middle, the Kindergarten Showcase, which is a registration event. a sneak peek of classrooms. And also we invite all of our community partners to start connecting our parents and our students with their different agencies that we work with. And we also get our parents all hooked up with technology, onboarding with the different apps that we use and different websites. We have translators there for our ESL families. And so the idea is to make this process as seamless and reduce as much anxiety as we can. The next step is kindergarten screening, where we start to learn more about our families, and we also partner with our different preschool partners to get information that of course is allowed to be shared with parent permission, so that we're not starting from scratch, that these partnerships are allowing us to leverage all the hard work of all these people who have been working with these children for years sometimes. We don't need to start from scratch. The partnerships are absolutely critical. It then moves to a summer meet and greets, popsicles on the playground. Again, getting parents and families and children at our sites, in our kindergarten classrooms, on our playgrounds, feeling positive about these connections all along, forming relationships with the counselors there, our special ed consultants there, our principals there, forming those relationships. Then we do a kickstart, which is a kindergarten camp, 2 weeks before school starts, half days, where the students are with all the different kindergarten teachers. Our nurses are there, our principals are there, our consultants are there. It is a full court press event where we're meeting all of these families, and at the end of that, we make decisions about classes and placements for children, so that we're making sure that we meet their needs. And then finally, the last, right before kindergarten starts, we do an orientation. Kids get to ride the bus, which of course is the highlight. The parents come in, we do more parent training. At this point, they've been in our buildings multiple times. They've met all the kindergarten teachers, all the administrators, all the secretaries, who we all know are really in charge of things. They've connected with special education, counselors, nurses, and we have this cohesive experience so that when kindergarten starts on that first day, everyone has a positive feeling. And we formed relationships, which we all know is the core part of making this work.
Thank you, Michelle. Thank you for sharing all those very specific strategies and approaches. The beautiful thing about these kind of webinars is that we don't have to start from scratch, right? We get to learn from each other, steal each other's ideas. That's what we do best, where it's actually allowed in education. And so we hope that everybody listening knows that that's why we're doing this, so that they can take from what you all have done and done so well, and perhaps implement it in their own circumstances. Okay, now I'm really excited. I'm already excited, but I'm especially excited to bring in two voices that we've yet to hear from, Mehmet and Ecem. If you missed introductions at the top of the hour, Mehmet and Ecem are parents to young children who have participated in these transition to kindergarten events. So if you two could please share with us what the experience was like for you and your children.
Oh, okay. I'm very excited too. But I'm Ecem Çiklayıplıkçı, Osman's and Esma's mother. We moved to United States 4 years ago, and Osman has experienced about school from Turkey. So he was so willing and nervous to go to school. After we came here, first he wasn't comfortable to speak English. On the orientation day, Osman is very excited. He was going to see the school for the first time. When he entered his classroom, he was very shy at first, but there were fun activities for them on the table. We met his teacher and we gave her information about Osman. Osman also had the opportunity to get to know his classmates. Then they got on the bus and took a short tour. He learned the bus rules and how to get on and off the bus. Honestly, I wasn't worried about him on the first day of school because Osman knew the bus rules and his class and his teacher, and he knew everything. He knew what's waiting for him at first day at school. Osman's teacher and ESL teacher took very care of him. Although he didn't want to speak English the first time, but now he speaks very well, and he only wants to speak English. And we do our best to help him not to forget Turkish. We are trying. And thank you very much. This type of training is very important for us during an adaptation process of our children to school. Thank you again.
Well, thank you. And I have to say, I'm very excited that you spoke to the language piece, right? And how you have children that are very different, even as a family, right? And how they respond to the first day of school based on their experiences that they've already had or their personalities is very different. And the teachers are able to respond to their uniqueness and their differences is so extremely important. And I love that you also spoke to the fact that you're still teaching Turkish at home, because we know that speaking more than one language is only going to be of benefit to our students as they move through school. Mehmet, did you want to add anything?
I mean, she said everything. You know, as you said, we have 4 kids, but all of them has different personalities, and I mean, I had a lot of concerns about Osman's transition because during we moving here, he didn't want to come United States. And in the first few months, he always wanted to go back. He refused to speak English in the school. But you know, this orientation day and the program that the school district used in the kindergarten, everything has changed in maybe the 2 months. He starts speaking English, and right now, as my wife said, when he said something at home in English, I said, okay, just tell it in Turkish, and he said, I don't know how to say it in Turkish. Please let me speak in English, but we tried our best. You know, the 2 language is really important, and also we still have connection in Turkey. And I don't forget to Turkish. But you know, this transition is so smooth, so good. It was really easy to us.
That's wonderful to hear. And I will tell you, it will be something that I am excited to share with our Secretary of Education. Anytime we get to speak to families and hear about the experiences they have, it really does have impact and influence on what we're trying to do. It ensures we reflect on what we still need to do. And we want to hear the good, the bad, and the ugly. And because that's where we learn what actually matters, right? You're on the ground, you're with your children every day, and you know exactly what their experiences mean and what a result of what happens in school happens at home as well. So thank you. We are really grateful to hear from you. We look forward one day to hearing from your children. We also love hearing student voices, again, because they're living it every day. Just as an FYI for participants, I also posted our English Learner Family Toolkit in the chat, as well as our tip sheets. We've created some toolkits to help our families better understand and navigate the system of the US, and just some strategies and tools that they can use, as well as the schools that work with them. So I am going to take a look at some of our questions. And so I will be asking perhaps some of our panelists to answer them, or maybe you'll all think about something. I do want to start with Martha's just comment really briefly. And she shares that it is families and or parents are the ones that can make everyone accountable, including students and families, make everyone come on board and do what is needed and required. And so thank you for sharing that, Martha. And I think Mehmet and Ecem are a perfect example of that. Parents that understand and are navigating the start of school with their children. And we certainly want to hear from them so that we can respond to them and they can help us ensure that we are meeting the needs of their children. Let me see what this next one is. Okay, Michelle, it sounds like this is for Michelle. There is so much intentionality and collaboration involved in the transition into kindergarten. What have you noticed per impact in enrollment for your district and parent engagement and involvement as continue on in your for your district and parent engagement and involvement as a continuum in your district? I think they mean like how has that affected or impacted enrollment for the district with their continued involvement?
Sure, that's a great question. So one of the things that was a real focus of ours was getting parents connected to school in a positive way. And so we put a lot of work last year into 2 Play and Learn series, one in the fall and one in the spring, focused on ages 3 to 5. And now that was very, very successful. This year, we are moving up to 6 Play and Learn series, and they are ranging from 12-month to kindergarten age. They focus on, one is a STEM focus, another one is young mathematicians. We do one that is focused on using things at home. We do a gross motor play and learn. We are partnering this upcoming summer with CV Seeds to offer libraries, play and learns in our libraries. We do not have a library in our community, but then we realized we actually do. We have 6 libraries in our community. So we are bringing play and learns and libraries combined on Wednesdays to have that connection with parents and with families through that. And we also have a brand new music Play and Learn that is designed for children ages 12 months to 36 months old. So we are at capacity with our Play and Learns now. And so it started, getting word out, but now it's really, really spreading, and the 12-month to 36-month one will be new for us. And so we're expanding from the traditional like 4-year-old pre-K experience to something a little bit more robust. And what we're seeing is that parents are more connected. Our usage of PowerSchool, which is our implementation, our system that we use for keeping records where parents have to sign up, that engagement is much, much higher. We have parents connected via the different apps that we're using. And so because we're providing enough supports so that they are connected. I have 2 kids of myself, and figuring out how to use these different apps and different platforms is a challenge to me, and I'm in education. And so to answer that question, we've seen a huge increase, not just in physical showing up to events, but in family engagement as a whole. Knowing how to check kids' grades, knowing how to, use all of these different features has really blossomed. And so we believe that it is all related to our First 10 work.
Thank you for sharing that, because that's one of the questions I was going to ask, is what is maybe one of the lessons learned about family engagement? And it sounds like, and I may be, so correct me if I'm wrong, that one of the lessons learned is that it has supported engagement in a way that is really impactful in terms of what parents need to understand and what they can do with their children, and just in numbers. I mean, I think that's always what we're trying to do, is engage more of our families, right? Not just engage those families that are already engaged better or more effectively, but we're trying to engage more of our families. I'd like to put this out there for everyone because I think that we are finding that family engagement is key to this. And we know that we've had a huge challenge with chronic absenteeism since the pandemic. So I'm happy for anyone to turn on their camera and respond. But how have these strategies, the strategies that you have shared specific to implementing First 10, impacted, if they have at all, or influenced your work around addressing chronic absenteeism? Jill?
I'm happy to jump in there. Absolutely. I think Michelle really hit the nail on the head with her description of getting to know our families early, building relationships with them early. And so as a result, we know our kiddos before they even step into our school. And in some instances, we've been able to mitigate and we've been able to provide some supports for issues that may lead to chronic absenteeism. So we catch it early, we get in that preventative, proactive mode, we get the right supports. So by the time they walk through the door the first day of school, we've already put the layers around the family to ensure success for that individual student. And I think that's probably the biggest impact we've seen is the earlier we get to know families, the better supports we can provide, which actually then reduces the issues. We're not waiting for there to be a chronic absenteeism issue to get involved with that family. We know them, they feel comfortable talking to us, and we can help to get them connected to the right supports. That's a really, really great question and a side outcome of this First 10 work.
Thank you, Jill. And that is something, again, that Kindergarten as a Sturdy Bridge has really been trying to elevate, that if kids aren't in school, what we're doing isn't going to really matter, right? So how do we get them back in school? And so I saw Beth turn her camera on, Aaron, David. How about if we start with David and then we'll jump around a little to talk a little bit about this. And maybe if you could, as you do that, also talk a little bit to like what is happening in the pre-K year, right? That might also help this as they then transition into the kindergarten year.
So thank you, Melissa. And I'll turn over most of my time to Beth and Aaron. And Aaron, I think we'd love to hear from you also about the play and learn experience in Woonsocket, because I think the relationships that you build through the play and learns there, just as they have in Conestoga Valley, have really, I think, also set the stage for good attendance later on. And Woonsocket has some nice data to share relevant to this. But what I would say is that for our communities across our First 10 network that have really identified attendance as and chronic absenteeism as an issue, we have helpfully relied on the attendance work transition to kindergarten toolkit and also some of their work around pre-K. And so we really emphasize building those attendance habits in pre-K and building those attendance habits in kindergarten. And a lot of that is about sharing information with families so that they know the importance of attendance in pre-K. Pennsylvania is a state where kindergarten is not required. And that's true in other states where we do First 10. And so building those norms and building that culture around attendance is critically important. And some of our communities have really focused on that. And I will put the attendance work, one of the attendance works toolkits that we've used and introduced to our communities in the chat. And then I'd love to turn it over to Aaron and others.
Beth and Aaron and others, just as you respond as well. Thank you, David. You brought something to mind that's really important. As you share some of your strategies, if there are any that are also specific to ensuring accessibility and comprehensibility for our families of English learners. So those families that don't speak English as a first language need to be just as aware, just as informed, need to have just as much access. If you could share any strategies along with others that you do specific for our families who don't speak English as a first language.
Yeah, so I mean, we have very strong community partnerships here in Woonsocket. Our staff itself, have some diverse languages that we're able to service families, obviously Spanish being the primary one that we're able to have access to. We've seen an increase in Portuguese families recently, and also we did have a Turkish family last year, so I thought that was cool that you guys were on here. So, I mean, there's lots, like I said, there's lots of community supports in the city of Woonsocket. So I know that if I don't have access to that particular language, that I can call, the local community health center and connect with somebody that can help me translate. And obviously, Google has done wonders in regards to, translating, newsletters, any type of emails we need to send out, as well as our Class Dojo platform that we use here, in the school. That's able to be, translated into many languages. Just seconding what Jill had mentioned in regards to the relationship building, I think that's huge, important. In regards to the play and learns, having them come in early. Our target for children is 2.5 to anybody that's not enrolled in a preschool program. Unfortunately, as we know, post-COVID, many of the classrooms, in Head Start programs have been closed due to staffing. Kids are sitting on waiting lists longer than they probably should. And fortunately, I can offer them some type of preschool experience. So that's what I'm targeting is those kids that don't have an experience right now, that they can come once a week and meet some peers, and parents can meet each other through that experience. And I would say, they get comfortable with the school, they're able to stay with their child, which is very different from a regular preschool setting. And then, if they're not able to come the following week, they've missed something, and they see the value already in an hour-and-a-half group if they're missing it week to week. So I think that sets the precedence, for good attendance moving forward. I know some of the things that they talked about, with some tips in regards to the play and learns, having, different languages available. We did try to do a Spanish group over the summertime. We're going to try to do that again. Having it at different times during the day so that, working parents can attend with their children. Was something we did. We have many people who don't have access to their own transportation in the city. So being able to spread it out in different parts of the city was very good so that people could, use public transportation to get their kids there. We've done a lot of cool things with the play and learn. I want to say it's probably one of my favorite things during my regular work week. Specifically, the connections that I'm able to make. In the slides, it's going to mention, 41% of the kids I enroll the following year after they've attended a play and learn. I'm very strategic of placing children who have already met in a play and learn group in the same classroom, in the same building they went to play and learn. The parents know each other. They're helping each other with rides. That also helps with attendance. If you're having trouble, you're able to get your child to school. They've really, made some nice connections. It's nice to have a friend already in place when you're so nervous starting preschool. I hope I covered what you needed.
Thank you. Mehmet or Ecem, do you want to share it all? Please feel you don't have to, but if there's anything that you want to share in terms of your play and learn experience.
Yeah, I can say that this play and learn sessions gave us a chance to meet their teacher and the environment, and it's built a trust and the familiarities because this is the first time that we left our child to the school somewhere else, and we welcomed really good, and the teachers approached us really experienced and positive. And for the kids' side, that's the first time that they will play and learn something outside the home, and since that day they play at home and learn everything from their parents, and they play if they have siblings with their rules. But this is the first time that they see someone else can take care of them, someone else can try to teach them something, and there's another kid that they play with together with in rules. They follow the rules. So in during these sessions, as the parents, also we and the teachers can find a chance to observe their reactions against rules and the playing with the other kids. The end of the sessions, we made a quick chats with the teachers. They asked some questions to us about their personalities. Probably they asked these questions to find the best way to approach them, because this is the beginning of their education life, and it should be good. And and also there was another orientation day before the beginning school, that we on that day we went their own classroom, met their own teacher in the classroom, so the kids could explore their classroom and the toys, the other activities, and they took a bus tour and learned bus rules and the school rules, hallway rules, everything. So on this age, kids wants to be in the safe zone.
Yes.
They don't like the surprises. So this activities prepare them to school. They will know that what's going on, what is waiting for them, who is the teacher, why the teacher is important for them, and they can trust the teacher. They learn these topics in this orientation days, and they say how it begin, it goes like that. So they started their education life with happy face, smiley faces. I hope that all the kids finish their education life with same as happy faces.
That's wonderful. I love that they should be happy. They should feel safe, right? And they should feel comfortable. You'd make a great teacher. You're speaking a lot of what we really know is so key, especially as young children start their educational journey, which is going to be a very long one, right?
Very long,
And so
yeah.
we want it to start off on the right foot and for them to feel welcomed, regardless of where they come from, what they already know, what their personalities are like, and so on and so forth. Okay, before I wrap us up, did Beth, or I know Beth, you didn't get to share anything to this question. If there's something that you want to share that maybe hasn't been shared at this point.
Quickly, just a kudos to the play and learns that Erin has coordinated in Woonsocket. One of the pieces that she also included was a take-home box from those play and learns. From my perspective, I think we have families that truly don't have access or are worried about what materials they should have for their kiddos at home. So by providing them with a little script and a few supplies that are things that they could probably find in their own home, it makes them feel as though they have the resources that otherwise is a little overwhelming when they don't have some sort of guidance as to what to use. So that was my one point. And then I loved that comment of the safety zone. And when we did our Passport to K, we had some great parent responses saying, my child was petrified to go to school and now she would like to start tomorrow. So that for
Love
us
that.
is a win. And you're right, it's about kids feeling safe and happy. We'll get the other things in place once we get them there.
That's right.
That's what's going to encourage the attendance.
Love that. Love that. Love that. Love that. And really, parents, families are handing us over their most precious, their most precious individual, the most precious part of their family. And I understand why it is at the top. I have 3 of my own, 2 granddaughters, and that's first and foremost what I want for them is to feel safe, which leads to them feeling confident, to them feeling excited, to them feeling like they belong, all of those wonderful things that just ripple from that. So thank you for sharing that. Mehmet and Ecem, you have been a delight, and we are so excited to see this alignment between our researchers that are coming up with these amazing frameworks like David, and then our on the ground, our community members, our school leaders, our curriculum directors, anybody in the school that's then putting it actually into practice with real life little ones, as we like to call them. And then hearing what that impact and influence has been for our parents and the beautiful children that they're sending to school. So I want to say thank you to all of you. I want to say thank you before I hand it back over to Sierra for giving me another wonderful opportunity to learn. As a moderator, I get to listen and learn from you all and connect dots and walk away with all kinds of notes. which I'm hoping that our audience has done as well, to see what else I can possibly do in the work that I'm doing. So it has been a joy to be with all of the panelists today. Thank you.
And thank you, Melissa. Thank you for leading us through this great conversation. This has been truly phenomenal. And honestly, I couldn't have said it better myself. I think it was a great example of looking at, seeing the research, seeing how we can put it in motion, and then seeing how it can benefit people. And so I really, really appreciate all of you for taking time out of your busy days of actually doing this work on the ground, and telling us more about your experience. And Mehmet and Ijem, thank you again. I know it can be tricky with the language barrier, but you were phenomenal, and we really, really valued your perspective in many ways. So thank you very much. As we finish up, I did want to remind folks, so the recording from this session, the slides, the bios, all those resources, those will be sent out in a follow-up email this coming Friday. So keep an eye in your inbox for that email coming through. That will include everything there. Feel free to forward and share it if you know folks who might benefit. And then in the coming weeks, we also have more opportunities. So next week on November 19th, we'll have a double header, as we like to call them, starting off with a funder to funder conversation at 12:30 Eastern Time. That will analyze the critical role of philanthropy in high impact tutoring. And then that same day at 3 p.m., we'll have a conversation about what kids and families need to thrive. So apropos to the conversation we had today. And then on the 26th, again, we'll be kind of diving into this conversation of the daycare myth and what we can do to create better state systems for our children. So if this was your first webinar joining us, we hope you'll join us for one of these upcoming opportunities. And like David mentioned, we will be having 2 other webinars in this little mini series that we're going to be having. So keep an eye in the new year for those registration opportunities and for more information about what's to come. But I think that closes us out. So thank you so much, everyone. Really appreciate your engagement, and we hope you'll register to join us for another session. Thank you.